Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mighty JJK channel and the 71 Ford Thunderbird build. Before we proceed with the build, perfect timing, my brother found his pictures so I can start this completion video with the actual subject, and there it is. And you can see that the chrome front under bumper signifies 71. And I wanted these pictures especially for the mirrors, or mirror singular as the case may be. It only had one on the driver's side only. Picking up where I left off, the primer leaked underneath the tape. Yeah, this was painter's tape. I think this worked a little better. I just masked off these four sections and then shot that. Ahead of doing clear coat, I want to get all chrome that needs to be done on the lower section of the body done. The first thing is to mask off everywhere that needs to be chrome. I've got one side done. Front turn indicator, back turn indicator, Thunderbird around the bumper, the door handle, and then all the way from front to back, I'll tape around the Thunderbird and then do the same exact thing on this side. I finished both sides. I am going to dry brush both the Thunderbirds, this one and then the written words on the back. I dry brushed the three Thunderbirds and masked them off. I then airbrushed the Molatow on all the lower body detail. All right, I'm gonna let that dry, see how that comes out. So here we are. I'm happy with the way my line came out between the roof and the body. Starting from the front, the Thunderbird, which was dry brushed, came up really well. And then the other dry brushing was in the back on these Thunderbirds. I just masked around there. Did little tiny pieces of masking in between those letters, and then dry brushed it, and I'll be doing, these Thunderbirds next. This is the other side, and again, I'm real happy with the way it came out. I finished masking these Thunderbirds, and now I'm going to dry brush those. There's the Thunderbirds on the back. Right on the edge is chrome. Okay, hopefully you can see that. Glue the engine into place now. If you'll recall, I adjusted this engine to get it to go back so that I could fit that radiator piece. And when I fix that engine and pushing it back, this will no longer go through. It doesn't line up. I can just see the tail edge of the opening for which this was supposed to fit through. So the way I'm going to address that is with 0.05 styrene rod. Am I supposed to glue the tires to the... I have to assume that I do, because these keep coming off, and I want to make sure they stay straight. So super thin, dab that in around there. Okay. I then applied medium super glue to the mating pegs and holes for the drive shaft, exhausts, and rear axle, and worked the part into place. Then I glued the exhaust to the front cross member and touched them with zip kick to freeze them in place. To correct these front ones, there's these ridges here. They stick out, and when it's on here, half's above the part that sticks out and half's below. I want it all the way up to a nice flat surface there. I'm going to take my Dremel tool as close to that as I have and carve out a half circle so that those can get right up against there, because right now there's a gap. Same thing on this side. It's even worse on this side. When those are up against there, this wheel sticks out further from the side than this one does. So I want to bring that down and get those to match up. They should be like that. And then those wheels will be parallel this way. I repeatedly trimmed the cross member while test fitting the wheels to it, and trimmed the axle pieces to get the wheels to fit flush against the cross member and perpendicular to the ground. And here you can see the axles, the white, going through the engine there. None of that is glued yet. I want to make sure I have the side location correct. I'm finally going to address this battery and windshield washer fluid container. And if you recall, these couldn't go all the way down in there. So I have to open this up some more. So I'm going to use the same Dremel tool. I repeatedly trimmed and test fit the pieces to get them to fit below that front wall, and to sit on each side next to the radiator with plenty of room. After the silver paint dried on the front half axles, I glued each in the appropriate position. Then I glued the wheels to the axles as well as to the sides of the cross member. All right, so problem solved. That these wheels don't roll, but they're in the right position and everything's nice and tight. And that little bit of play in there allows for all 4 tires to touch the ground when it's sitting down. Before I can apply the clear coat, I need to mask off the roof. As I mask the roof, I'm going to mask for all of the Molatow around all of the window openings. I've completed taping, so what I'm going to do now is hit all that with the pen. Right off the bat, we get into this issue where you can't get into these tight spaces, like that tight corner right there, with the pen. So I'm going to have to come back with a little bit on a brush and hit it. What I did learn is that you can clean this up with alcohol, 91% alcohol. I'll put some on there, and then I'm going to squeeze it out to kind of try to get this to a point. And then yep, cool, that worked nice. This in a container and brushing it on. Why I didn't do this sooner. So I watched several Barbados Rex videos about how to clear coat metal surfaces, and one of the, I think 3 or 4 that he recommended was plain old Pledge floor wax. I went ahead and did that. So now I'm gonna take all the tape off, and got some run under. Yeah, this brushing it on, it runs underneath. In my humble opinion, I think the only way to use the Molatow is if you spray it on. Here it is unmasked, and you can see I just had tons of run under. Here's the cleanup. That's alcohol in that bottle, and then these are the Tamiya pointed Q-tips. So I, dipped them in the alcohol and then just went in there in between the blue and the silver and cleaned it up as best I could. The alcohol works well, taking off even this dried Molatow. And then I still have a wash of the original color. So then use the wash along those edges. And I finished the fix-up by applying dull coat with a brush around the T-birds and over the repaired edges. Here's the finished product. I'm pretty happy with the way this came out overall. It's not horrible. It's not perfect, but it's not horrible. So on to the next thing. For references for the front and back turn indicators, I used the amber and red paint to again make washes, and then put the amber in the front and the red in the back. And there's the other side. These are the 62 Buick Mirrors. I'll put that reference in my brother's car up. And so what I can do is shape this into more of a rectangle, like build it up from the back forward. And then the inside rear view mirror, kind of the same thing. I'm just gonna get that circle out of there. I'm going to fill this, sand that smooth. Okay, these are going to require some sculpting, kind of like a big bar of soap, if that makes any sense. I have to fill this from the back. It's that back that sits on the support. This is the side view mirror. That's the rear view mirror. Here's the mirrors shot with the Molatow. While I give these a little more time to dry, I'm going to assemble the car. I clamped the glass piece to the roof and dabbed super glue at touch points along the edges. Then cut the rear view mirror and attached it to the center of the windshield just above the trim line. I glued the dashboard to the interior tub, then placed the tub in the body and dabbed glue at the touch points. To get the interior door card tops to adhere to the body door tops, I carefully clamped the doors inward and ran glue along the seams from the inside. I attached the red taillight piece with medium super glue and clamped it till dry. Then I fit and glued the front grille to the body, reinforcing it at all the touch points. With the tail piece now dry, I maneuvered it into place and glued it at the connection posts on the inside. Finally, I was able to attach the body to the chassis and the engine. Never used screws before to construct a model, but it went together well. Then came the rear under bumper piece, which I worked into place as I touched it with ultra-thin super glue. In the front, I test fit the under bumper, laid medium super glue on the grille bottom, carefully matched up the edges, then pressed and held the part till dry. With light touches of ultra-thin superglue, I finally placed the corrected battery, corrected radiator, and scratch-built wash container along the corrected front wall. Then I added the new master cylinder. Next, as per references, I carefully glued the side view mirror in place. When I try to put the kit part for the radiator hose, it doesn't reach. Nothing in this engine bay fits correctly. This is 0.05 millimeter, almost fits perfectly. So I'll just cut a piece off there, attach it on there, paint it black, and put it in there. I detailed the battery with silver marker on the posts and red marker on the caps. The other thing are these license plates. Since there's no spot for them on the front, even though Illinois has them in both the front and the back, I'm just going to do the back one. My brother graduated high school in '79. He got this car the next year, but the latest they have is '79. So we're going to go with that one. And I kind of test fit these before. They don't fit within there, so I'm going to just cut these, and I may even just sticky tack them on. Looks all right. And I finish up with gluing the extended radiator hose into place. And with that, the 1971 Ford Thunderbird is complete. And here's the finished car. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with it. It's kind of funny. I tried a bunch of new things on this build, and for the most part did those well. Like that wash technique. I mean, look at that tailpiece, and those hubcaps came out great. Yet, on things where I'm already supposed to know what I'm doing, I kind of fell short, especially on the finishes. That pledge is way too thick, and I know better. And I should have taken more time burnishing down the tape edges. And on the color, I went 60-40 white to light blue, and it still wasn't light enough. Unfortunately, the photos arrived late. But that's okay. We'll just say it was inspired by my brother's car, as it's not an exact match anyway. His car had bench seats, a different steering wheel, different hubcaps, and white wall tires. But yeah, for my first car as a mature modeler, shall we say, I'm super happy with the way it came out and had an absolute blast building it. As for the kit itself, the parts had tons of flash. Even now I see some I missed on the grill next to the headlight. And the kit was also missing a few essential things like the mirrors and certain engine parts. It definitely presented its challenges. Here's a close-up of the engine bay. So you'll recall I moved the engine back so that I could get the entire radiator in there. I created this window washing reservoir. I detailed the battery, cleaned those up so they can get down below that line. You'll see my aftermarket master cylinder. I think that came out really well. I'm happy with that. I made that bracket for the alternator on the engine block. The wiring, that was fun to do, and my fixed hose to the radiator. So all in all, I'm very happy with my updates and fixes to the engine bay and the way everything came out. If I had it to do over again, I would do surgery on this radiator piece, cut that top off, and then cut a similar piece out of this front wall and move that up into there, merge that into that wall. And then that would allow for the engine to fit properly. It should be further up. By pushing that engine back, I created a lot of problems. The major thing with this kit is the engine bay and the spacing in there. And here's the underside of the model, and again, the spacing issues up in the engine bay, but overall, I'm really happy with the way it came out. Finally, concerning the Molatow window trim and the order in which I did things, I should have included that upper trim with the lower body trim, masking everything and spraying it all at once. I honestly believe that spraying the Molatow is the only way to get nice tight edges and light enough coats to come out with that exquisite look. But live and learn, that's how we improve. Bottom line, the car came out well and I'm proud of it. Kind of a workshop update here. I squeezed in another row of shelving which will actually be the road dedicated to cars. So there she sits on the shelf. And this card came with the kit, and it's basically a little mini replica of the box, but I think it's kind of cool just to have it there behind the car. And there's her future shelf mate. Not sure if I'll do that next or what, or maybe the armor, or maybe something completely different. But this build was definitely a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and I think she looks pretty good on the shelf. So as always, thanks for watching and happy modeling.